Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Portland Film Festival presented by Comcast. This year's festival is jam-packed with movies, workshops, panels, and more. To find more information about the films you can hear about tonight, go to pdxff.com. My name is Joe Stevens. I'm the Director of Programming, and we'd like to welcome our 2020 filmmakers to the panel today. We're going to be starting with a filmmaker who was on a little earlier, but you'll have to hear from her again.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, good evening. Good to see you back here again.
Yeah, this has been already, I guess this is day two, and it's been such an overwhelmingly incredible experience already, and virtually. So thank you for this.
Well, we're so glad to have you. For everybody who hasn't seen yet, would you mind introducing yourself and your film?
Well, my name is Tracy McGregor, and I am the director and producer of the documentary short film, The Forgotten Ones. And that is playing as part of the Black Voices Shorts segment.
And we're doing the Black Voices
film block.
How did your film come to be?
Well, I went back to graduate school a couple of years ago to study documentary storytelling. And, of course, because my background is in journalism, I never even thought about going to the film school. And I ended up at Annenberg. And I ended up going back to the School of Cinematic Arts and taking a course over the summer with a documentary filmmaker by the name of Doug Blush. And that summer, it was when I made this documentary, and I actually used audio sound from an audio interview that I had done with Billy. Billy is the subject of this film. And I met Billy, actually. He was panhandling on the side of the freeway. And he would be there every day. I dropped my son off at the preschool across the street. So we became friends. And over the course of a couple of years, I didn't see Billy anymore. I went back to school, and we were focusing on homelessness that summer. And I read an article about the sharp increase. I think in July 2018, in fact, it was a 22% increase in elderly homelessness, right? And the following year, in 2019, it was an additional 9% increase. So people's grandparents are on the street, right? It immediately made me think about Billy, and within a matter of days, he happened to be back at that freeway off-ramp. And he said that he likes to go back there to kind of see people who over the years, who have been kind of looking out for him, right? And at that time, I told him I wanted to talk to him. I didn't know how deep his story was, how much there was to it, right? So I interviewed him for a radio class, and I brought that audio to this class, wanting to challenge myself to make a film where I didn't have someone just doing a sitting down interview. I really wanted to challenge myself to just make sequences. So it's a long way of talking about how the film came about, but it came about. I think it's an important story. I think it's one that just resonates with the time that we're in right now. I think that we, elderly people in this country are not valued. We don't take care of our young, and we don't look out for our elderly, the most vulnerable populations. And it's sad. So I hope that this film resonates with people. I hope that it activates people to do something, yeah, Forgotten Ones.
Well, I hope your film resonates with people too. So far, if any screenings you've had, how have audiences reacted to it?
Excuse me?
With any screenings you've had so far, how have audiences reacted to your film?
People really like the character, you know? I mean, the one thing that we talk about, and I guess in filmmaking in general, is just having strong characters. And I think with documentary, you don't think about your subjects as characters, but they are. And when you have a strong character, it's easy to kind of pull people in. And Billy also has you know, like I said, before I went out with the camera with him, I had everything on tape, and just the richness of his voice, you know, it will pull you in. And that is also something that I learned about filmmaking, and going over to the cinema school, is just how important sound is in the process of filmmaking. That sound like makes or breaks a film, period, you know. Um, and so just having a strong foundation with the audio, you know, enabled me to build upon it with the visuals and with the other elements that I brought to it after. So yeah.
Yeah. When we talk about characters in documentary, how important is it to build a rapport with your subject? I mean, Billy is a very strong man, and this is something that is very personal. So I mean, how was it inviting you along to share his story?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, the fact that I had befriended him and had been, you know, kind of breaking him off with $1 every other day for some years, we had already built a rapport, you know? And so when I came to him about telling his story, I was even getting at him under the guise of being a student. I was in school, and I'm like, here, we have a little student project, you know, I want to talk to you. And I did, again, when I say I didn't know how deep the story was, you know, um, a, a lot of that first hour of me trying to talk, like, it was one word answers, you know, he was like, yeah, no, like it was really he was a tough nut to break, because he hadn't talked about a lot of this stuff, you know, many years. He's lived a solitary life, most of it on the streets of Hollywood, you know, and it wasn't like he became homeless when he was you know, a young man, you know. It's like he got out of prison, you know, and so he was already, like, you know, pushing 40, 30, you know, in his mid 30s, and was on the streets, and he's growing, aging, you know what I mean? He's growing old on the street. Billy's like 76 now, you know what I mean? So he's seen a lot, he's experienced a lot. He doesn't trust people, you know. But I just took the time, you know. And Billy knows my son. He's known him since he was in a baby car seat, you know, like he's known him since he was a toddler. He's become like family to us, um, you know. So building trust is everything. It is the foundation for everything. But I think, you know, it's a give and take, right? Like, I can't expect him to pour out his soul if I'm not giving anything. And it's not like yeah, but it's like, you know, especially with documentary, you have to give of yourself, right? You have to give of yourself. So I think that's how I was able to really get him to talk, you know, about stuff like, he has a son out there, you know, and part of me is like, gosh, you know, if I could find that son, if I could just, you know, bring them back together, you know, I mean, these are the things you hope for, right?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't seen that son since he was about my son's age, you know, my kid is 9. So yeah.
Do you have any projects coming up you'd like to talk about?
Gosh, I'm working on a couple of things. I am in post-production on, it's actually my thesis, called The Long Road to Revitalization. It's about the changing face of South LA. So I'm in post on that. And I'm in pre-production on a personal piece about my father. He passed away in February, and you know, because I guess I was so steeped in studying the craft, I just was shooting a lot with my camera. I knew we had just a few days to live, and I was just with my phone, my camera on my phone, and just capturing moments. Um, so it's been an opportunity really to process a lot of that, um, and honor him and tell his story and know he wasn't perfect, and it's a lot to process. But yeah,
Yeah.
pre-production. We're in development on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, you can buy tickets to her film and all the other films with Black Voice at pdxff.com.
Yes, absolutely. I've been checking out some of the other films in the Black Voices block, and actually plan to check out a lot of the other films. You guys did a great job of curating the program this year, so props.
Thank you. Okay. I think we have time for another one in here. Let's toss in our next director. Hey, Mackenzie.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself, introduce your film?
My name is Mackenzie Woodward. I am the writer and director of Mr. Weekend, a narrative feature film.
Now, do you want to give us a quick synopsis?
It's a noir, a film noir with a primarily black cast about a low-level LA bookie that happens to find himself with a few pounds of crystal LSD, and the typical hijinks of a noir narrative that happens from there.
Now, you're almost inventing a genre here with noir, and I love that. It's just yeah, your film was a really fun one to watch. It was.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did you come up with the idea for it?
I grew up watching film noirs, on, I think it was TBS. I don't know. Like, I don't want to reveal how old I am, but it was, on one of those old networks. And, usually black characters are relegated to servants, or, if they're barely in them to be marginalized at all. But if they are, it's not necessarily the most flattering depiction. So I always just grew up imagining what a story would be like to see that, even from that time period in a noir narrative from a black character's point of view. I would always imagine, I'd love to see a noir narrative, with the Klan down south or something like that. But it has yet to be done, and so that's why I kind of decided to make Mr. Weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't have, most resources to make it, so we had to stretch some stuff pretty thin, but I came out pretty happy with the result.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about making a feature film on a tight budget?
It's not something I would probably recommend everybody attempt to do, but if that's enough to deter you, you probably wouldn't get it off in the first place. But it was really just a matter of taking note of something, like the resources that I did have and writing around those. I would walk through a friend's hallway and be like, oh, the lighting in this looks good. I wouldn't need to bring any setup in for this. This will work well. Or, oh, I like the way this guy carries himself. I could maybe use him as a character. And so rather than, needing to do a lot of set design or production, bring in a lot of stuff, I kind of just would take note of what I had and write a story around it.
There you go. Yeah. So, like to ask about happy activism. It feels like you're kind of getting to that yourself with your resourcefulness. How important do you think resourcefulness, flexibility is to being a director?
I'd say you definitely I think, the best analogy I heard, it's like a battle plan. You can plan and plan and plan down to every detail, but then as soon as you start shooting, so much of that stuff goes out the window. some actors might bring a different interpretation to a character that might not be how you originally imagined it when you wrote it, but it might, evolve into something that you're happy with and, move from there. Especially when you the less money you have, the more adaptable you have to be. I don't know anybody that can plan a movie on a low budget, with Kubrick efficiency. I'm sure there's somebody out there that can. I wouldn't recommend it because that's a lot of frustration, So yeah, I'd say adaptability is key.
Yeah. So you talked about how kind of like a battle plan when things go wrong. What challenges did you have on this film?
Oh man. All right. I guess I could start with probably the most epic and then work my way down. There was a miniature gang war. All right, I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but in the motel that we shot in the final scene, I was like, I need to find a really grungy, dirty hotel, motel to shoot in. So, I found one in a not too savory part of LA, and some characters were in LA, certain groups will, naturally kind of question each other in certain situations, so I'm trying to see how I can phrase this in a politically correct manner. Some black guys and some brown guys were sort of like, oh, wait, where are you from? Because they were dressed up as gangsters, so they thought they were gangsters. And so they were kind of just kind of not you could tell that there was some heat tension, but I was able to go out there and be like, hey, everybody, I got donuts. And everybody chilled out. So,
There you go.
that's why there's always so many donut shops in LA. Keeps violence down. So that was one. One actor that was cast originally as one of the gangsters in my film had a tantrum and just left set. So the guy that was his number 2 ended up becoming the number 1. And he's actually, working in CSI episodes and stuff now. So, it's a lesson to actors. Tantrums don't get you very far. But so stuff like that.
What was your favorite memory from shooting?
Finishing. To tell you the truth, I'm not gonna lie. Being when you're shooting on set, it's a pleasant experience, but it's always it's a means towards an end. So you had to keep it very efficient. So there wasn't a lot of time to joke around and develop the sort of camaraderie that you'd see in maybe a theater production, but I shot it in LA, so everybody's very professional. So you're not necessarily, too concerned about, actually, I don't, let's see. If I was going to say my favorite memory, I'd say first day shooting, I convinced everybody that I was going to do something, and there was a lot of doubt that people were like, I wonder if this guy's going to be able to pull it off. But when they showed up the first day to set, my production designer and casting director both had this sort of look of surprise, like, oh, this is going to be a legit movie. So I'd say that's probably my favorite memory. I went into it an underdog.
A little vindication there. Yeah. Do you have any projects coming up?
After I had Mr. Weekend show at some festivals, I attracted some attention from, some producers and writers, and I'd say there's stuff in the works, but in this industry, you don't get excited about anything till it happens, so I'd say we'll see. I mean, I'll be here for a while, hopefully. I don't want to jinx myself, but yes, there's stuff in the works.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us here tonight, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
You want to remind us where your film's playing?
Where is it playing, you asked?
Yeah, which block?
It's in Black Voices and I think Narratives. I'm not entirely sure. What else it's in.
That's right. You're not a short. That's my.
That's right. It's a feature film.
Sorry. Yes. I'm sorry about that. I've been talking to short all day. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. We're doing one more for this set. Let's bring on the next one. Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
You want to introduce yourself, introduce your film?
I am actor and producer Ramon Palmer, and my film is Saving District. It's a short film.
Yeah. You want to give the quickest synopsis?
So Saving District is about, I don't like to use the word troubled youth, but a youth that needed to be redirected, and he lands inside of a diner, and he runs into a guy that had his own troubled past, and so the youth is, searching for some advice, and it's up for both, for the gentleman that's sitting in the diner to give him the advice and to see if he would take it. So the film is heavy for me because I used to work with at-risk youth for a period of time, and so in 2018. The Parkland High School incident took place, and then the year following that, I wrote the script, and I wanted to create something that can be sort of like a voice for at-risk youth. So
yeah. So wow. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Sorry, I'm not sure the more speakers here. What an idea of how you came about making this film? Like you talked a little about the like the process.
Well, the Sandy Hook Elementary incident and the Parkland High School incident took place, years back, and I worked with at-risk youth for a period of time, and so I just, I was at home, and I started putting these characters together, in ways that I guess I can, sit in, a story with rising actions, but something that can still have a powerful message, in a film, and I left it to be like more, I guess I don't want to give the film away, but it could still be like rated PG-13 because I still wanted to do, my idea was to do stuff with like the school district where, it can be an educational piece. But I was at home. I was just sitting at home, and I came up with these characters, and my mind just started to run. And I contacted some people, and here I am.
Most challenging speech.
The most challenging, I guess I would say scheduling. Scheduling was the most challenging because everybody has their own, like at the time, everybody had their own stuff going on. So just getting that, done was a challenge at the time.
How long does it take?
Or as overall, the schedule as overall, or just for the shooting days? It's 7 days. It took us 7 days to shoot the film.
Okay.
And let me. I'm here speaking on the behalf of the director who is not available. I created the film, but I give her all the credit. River Coonsey is. She was the one that directed this film, but I brought everybody together. I casted the film, and and so forth. And I wrote the script. It went through some editing processes and stuff, but yeah. So. But I'm speaking on her behalf here tonight because she's not able to be with us. Yeah.
What was your favorite part of it?
Favorite part of the film? I guess there was a portion, of the script that really hit home with me because I played one of the characters. I played John Pearson, who is a biker that had a rough path, and I guess I could relate to that portion of the script because I worked with at-risk youth. So like, you know, really trying to push that message into this youth sitting across from the table from me was something that, you know, I enjoyed, and hopefully, you know, the message is strong for other people to see too.
Yeah. Now your film definitely has a strong message. How have you seen that people? How have you seen people react to it in any screenings you've had?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How have you seen people react to the film in any screenings you might have had?
How people reacted to it?
Yeah.
Well, I've gotten some great responses back. I mean, a lot of people say it's a deep film. I haven't heard anything negative so far on the project. I don't know if that's just because they know me or whatever. But yeah, I've had wonderful responses, you know, to Saving District. I think it can be definitely relatable to, you know, the chaos around gun violence that we all are, you know, facing today in America and across the world. You know, I hope that the film can bring some type of social awareness, you know, to our circumstances that we're in, you know. And that was really the main thing when I did this, you know, it's just personal, just for us to pay attention more, you know, to signs, you know, when people are going through stuff.
Do you have any projects?
Yeah, I'm working on a film called Two Sons in a Day. It's a true story about a young man in Portland by the name of Aaron Campbell, who was unfortunately gunned down by a police officer, unarmed. So I'm working on that project with a director, Michelle Wimsley. We're working on that project. So it's like post-production right now. We're not, you know, it's, you know, just like the last director said, I mean, you know, until things sort of happen, they happen. But I'm excited about that because we sort of live in that time right now. And yeah, for sure.
All right. Ramon, thank you for coming out here and filling in for your director tonight.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. And you guys check out Saving District. I hope you guys enjoy the film.
All right. You can buy tickets to Saving District and any other vlogs we have at pdxff.com.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to throw to a few clips here, and we're back with our second round and our new host.
Hey, I'm Doug Roland, writer-director of Feeling Through, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Feeling Through is the first film ever to star a deaf-blind actor. I made it in partnership with the Helen Keller National Center, and we are thrilled to be a part of the Portland Film Festival. In addition to the film Feeling Through, we also take it around the country as part of the Feeling Through Experience, a fully accessible 3-part screening event that also includes a supporting documentary following the process of casting and working with our deafblind actor Robert Tarango, as well as a panel discussion and Q&A with the deafblind community. If you want to find out more about that, go to feelingthrough.com and sign up for our mailing list. We'll let you know about the next opportunity to catch that whole experience as well. But in the meantime, check it out at the Portland Film Festival. We'll see you there.
Hey, I'm Rooftop, and I'm a fashion designer, filmmaker, and creative director of the Brand Advisory. Currently in New York City, and my film is Time Ain't Enough.
Time ain't enough, Lord in my hands. Devil on my shoulder, he enticing me to dance. Devil on my shoulder, Father, an angel by his stand. Why so much pain in the mirror? Watch by every other chance.
Time is a music video by Glenn the Saiyan that explores Glenn's past as a kid, struggling in school, and how that may affect his relationship with his parents. Despite Glenn's parents wanting him to succeed in school, Glenn understands that his heart really lies in the arts. This concept was very personal to me. As I was writing this treatment, I was contemplating dropping out of school because I knew that the only reason why I was there in the first place was to appease my parents. I ended up staying in school, long story short, and I don't necessarily recommend dropping out to anyone, but did make for a good concept for this video, so shout out to that. Here's Time Ain't Enough. Enjoy.
of reviews, and how I still try to find hope even if all these terrible things are happening.
Cool. Hello, everybody. Hope you enjoyed those clips for other projects being featured at the Portland Film Festival. My name is Wesley Crawford, coming back for the second half of today's director's chat, taking over for Joe. Thank you to Joe and the three directors who we've already talked to. Pretty intriguing conversations. As always, you can check out their films at PDXFF. Now we're going to bring in a few more directors to chat with, talk about their projects. And the first one I'll be chatting with is Ariella Tai. Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm also good. Why don't you introduce yourself and the project to the people watching?
My name is Ariella Tai, and my project is Safe House, which is an experimental short film that you can find in the Black Voices Shorts programming block. Safe House is an experimental narrative film that follows several vignettes of two Black queer characters as they move through a day.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds very exciting. So what inspired you to make this film, to tell this story, or to tell it the way you did?
So the film was originally commissioned for an exhibit at Trinity Square Video in Toronto, Canada, for a show that was called Architectures After the Asylum. And the show was trying to think through what mental health healing spaces could look like outside of the logics of incarceration. So I wanted to think about what healing spaces could look like for Black queer characters, like thinking about the legacy of incarceration, especially disproportionate incarceration of Black queer and trans people and Black women, and like how I could fantasize like what a healing, like intimate space could look like for two people.
That's super interesting. Yeah. Is it what's because you said that this is an experimental film. The synopsis sounded multimedia. What's the experience like creating sort of a more avant-garde experimental type thing versus narrative? Like, what's the process like?
Well, normally, so I'm primarily a video artist. I work in found footage and appropriated media, and then I use analog video processing tools and digital video processing tools primarily. So this was my first experience like creating my own footage. So it was very new for me, but I usually do like to work with the visual media that I use by thinking about it as like its own medium that can be stretched, or that I can like find the underneath or the inside of, because I think about the ways in which Black narratives and Black interiority often does go unseen, and sometimes does tend to like exist in those like sort of subtextual places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's good answer. Yeah. So with that said, you know, what's one thing you really hope viewers sort of take away from this film, from the experience?
Well, one of the things that was most important to me going into making the film is that we worked with an entirely Black crew. So everybody who touched this film and created this film was a Black person who, you know, we all like met together and talked about like what my intentions were, what our individual experiences with mental health were, and what our own histories and relationships to those histories, what that were. So I think that there was a lot of care in that space. And I think that that's something that I want, that I would like folks to know, is that, you know, we shot it over the course of the day, and it was a really like intimate and like healing and special experience.
Wow. Yeah. Well, going off that, then what's one thing you learned from production? It's a new art form, new people. What was kind of your biggest takeaway from the experience?
Like everything. I had a lot of help from the folks who helped me shoot. My DP was Sika Stanton, who does a lot of work in Portland. I worked with Andre Jones for lighting. My production assistant, Kanda Ngoza. Like they all came with so much experience, and like we're just so generous in terms of like answering all of my questions, because I was just really like, I'm usually an editor, so I totally only touch the back end. So this was my first time figuring out how to produce, how to direct, like how to just build everything. So I feel like I learned, I can't even like begin. I like literally couldn't have done it without everybody.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of film, right? The collaboration. Do you have any other projects you're working on right now?
I'm working on an installation that is like in just like very research, like gathering stages. I'm really interested. It's kind of a heavy topic, but I've been very interested in the history of medical experimentation as it has related to Black women and Black queer people. But it's a years-long project that I'm currently in the midst of.
Wow, that's quite the undertaking. How do you feel? Because your stories are, you know, such serious topics. You know, what do you think it is about art experimentation, you know, that's different from just reading an article about it or like going on Twitter and seeing a graphic or something?
I think that for me, the difference is that, I mean, like I feel really connected to literature, especially literature that's generated by Black feminist thinkers. Like Safe House uses a lot of text by Saidiya Hartman's from her most recent book, Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments. So I really do connect with literature a lot, and it does influence my practice. But I think that in terms of image, I think just because of how rooted it is in the body, I think like I'm a romantic in terms of like the ways I think a lot about the way that, you know, the light reflected off of a thing like has touched the body of a person. And so when we think about images, right, like there's a piece of that that lives inside there. So especially like when I'm thinking about like my ancestors and like my history, like that's just, I think the moving image I feel very connected to it in that way. I don't know if that was just word salad. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that was beautiful. No, it is. Yeah, there's a connection there, I think, and I think anybody who watches Safe House will feel a connection for sure. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. You can watch Safe House and the rest of these movies at pdxff.com. Thank you so much, Ariella.
Thank you.
So now we're going to move on to our next director, Jay Snow. He's coming up to talk about his project.
Yo, what up?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, Wes. How are you, man? Wesley? You want to say Wes or Wesley?
Yeah, well, I tell people to not call me Wes, but then they call me Wes anyway, so you can do whatever you prefer.
Nah, man, I respect it, man.
Well, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. So why don't you introduce yourself and your project for the people watching?
My name is Jay Snow. I am the writer, director, and star of the film Flawed. And Flawed is basically the story about a LA comedian who's hiding his chronic illness from his new girlfriend until it blows up in his face on their first date. And then he's forced to either tell her about it or continue to try to hide it, which won't work out in the long run. It's a rom-com. I know that sounds dramatic. It's tough for people to imagine how much comedy is actually in the film until you watch it. But that was kind of the point, you know, was to turn one of those like not so easy to talk about topics into something that could be really funny.
For sure. Yeah. So is your history more in comedy or more in film or kind of whatever you're feeling? Could you talk a little bit about sort of the background?
My background is more, I would say, comedy, but I guess a mix of both, right? Because I basically created content on YouTube for years. You know, that was kind of my entry point into entertainment was YouTube and YouTube University. You know, it taught me how to write what programs to write on, what cameras to use, and how to edit on Final Cut until Adobe, you know. So like it basically taught me a lot about filmmaking. It was my film school, you know. And yeah, that slowly grew into working on certain projects for television and now projects for myself, you know, film and TV shows in the future, hopefully. But yeah.
Well, that's really neat. And so and if I'm not mistaken, you like wrote, directed, produced. Did you also star in the movie, or did you act in it?
I did perform in it. Yeah. I mean, so the film basically, the chronic illness that's a topic of discussion with this film is sickle cell anemia. And it's something that I personally deal with in my life, and something that I for a long time didn't want to talk about, but uh, became an important part of this film. You know, it kind of tells a story that's sort of based on true events. A lot of my real life experiences have gone into this film, and yeah, I think it was definitely something that came from personal experience, and I, you know, yeah, that's kind of my connection to the story.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Is it kind of weird, like writing like for you, or did it come more naturally? Like what was the like knowing you're gonna
Um,
be in it?
this in particular came a bit naturally. I'd say most of my content, like even my sketches, like some of my older sketches, are like I don't know, I guess submersive. Like I basically take a person or a character or something that's happening, and you know, see what that person would do in that scenario, or think, or how would they feel, what are some of the things that would go on in their personal life, you know, like that's something I did not even knowing I was doing it, you know, when I was making sketches years ago. And so it kind of just naturally transitioned into the bigger projects that I took on. Even one telling a story about myself, it was easy for me to look at myself as a character, I guess, you know, in a way. So
Right.
it definitely helped.
Cool. Well, yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I'm sure it was a very rewarding experience. So what are some of your other projects coming up that you're working on? Do you have anything in the works?
Right now, I really am just focusing on trying to package an extended version of Flawed, the short film, into a television series. That's kind of what I've been working on all quarantine, and yeah, that's kind of the next move, is to try to, you know, tell a bigger story. There's so much more material around people dealing with chronic illnesses, invisible disabilities, or like, you know, mental issues, depression, anxiety, and whatnot. Like, and all of these things are, you know, in that world of dealing with a chronic illness. And so I feel like there's so much more, so many more stories to tell in that world. And that's just kind of what I want to explore. That's pretty much all I've been working on, and what I'm working on in the near future. Otherwise, maybe another short film down the road, like a thriller or something.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. So, well, that kind of brings me back to, because you said a lot of your film stuff was through YouTube University. So, what was kind of the most rewarding or most challenging, whichever comes to you first, experience from production, and just the, you know, going from an idea to a finished movie at the Portland Film Festival?
Oh man, kind of just seeing it on screen, you know, because for a long time, when you're creative, when you think of something, you get an idea, you see a show or whatever that idea is, you know, in your head, it's there. That's the only place it lives, right? Nobody else can see it but you. And so to see it go from that to a screen where everybody else can watch it too, and then they laugh, and then they enjoy those moments that I enjoyed before, like that part is, for me, is really dope. Just seeing it like happen, you know, like being in a theater watching people watch a film that you thought of was pretty dope.
Yeah, I bet, man. So, well, that was one. What was a challenge you kind of experienced in production, like where it was harder than you expected, or?
um Post production. That happened to be very difficult for me, because for one, that's where your budget is blown. Like everything you imagined and you thought you know, you got out the locations on time, you didn't have to go over there and blah blah blah, you get all this footage, and then it's just like, oh, these are hidden fees for sure. You know, it changed the game. But also it requires an extreme amount of patience, which I don't have. Like I'm like, I just want to get it done now. Like even my DP, like I think we wrapped the film in like we wrapped the film in May. By June, I was like, all right, we need a cut done. You know, I'm like, and there my DP is like, dude, it takes a bit more time to like, cut a film and get it right. I'm like, so wait, like not like 3 weeks, maybe 4, you know? So it was just like that part of it was figuring it out was fun, you know?
Yeah, man, that's funny. Yeah, that's doesn't surprise me. But well, it sounds like it was a very new and unique experience for you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where Flawed goes. Thank you so much for chatting with us, Jay. You can
Thanks
watch
for having me.
Flawed. Yeah, of course, no problem, man. This is a blast. You can watch Flawed at pdxff.com. Of course, you can watch all the other films we've been talking about here today. Thank you so much, Jay.
Sweet.
Yeah. So now, last but certainly not least, we have Will Deloney coming up to talk about his project. Hey, Will, how's it going?
Howdy, howdy. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm also good. I've been listening to very creative minds talk for the past hour, so it's been pretty great. So why don't you introduce yourself and the project you're working on?
Sure. My name is Will Deloney. I am based out of Austin, Texas. I am the director of a documentary called Crappie Killa the Movie. And I'm not a Black director, but Crappie is an amazing fisherman based in Portland. He happens to be a Black guy. And I think what's really great about his story is that he's really active in the outdoors and in the kind of outdoor industry, which is very dominated by white people. And it's not an easy kind of field to navigate, but Crappie is just kind of this amazing person that does that. And, you know, it's because of his positivity and his outlook on life that allows him to do that, as well as many other things.
Yeah, it's a pretty pretty neat film. So for documentary filmmaking, what I'm kind of curious to hear about your approach, you know, because you know with documentaries you get all this stuff and then you condense it down into one 40-minute, hour-long story. What was kind of you and your team's approach to telling Crappie's story?
Yeah, so I had worked with Crappie one time before on a documentary about him and his brother. They used to have a YouTube channel that did pretty well. It's all about them fishing, and his brother's kind of this guy from LA that didn't know anything about fishing. So to kind of get to see him learn how to fish, and this very funny, they're very funny. Crappie's an amazing comedian. He actually used to do comedy back in the day. So I originally worked on a project about him and his brother, and we did that. And later on, Crappie was like, I really want to do another documentary to raise awareness about this skin condition he has called HS, hidradenitis suppurativa. And that was, he was like, I want to do a documentary about that. Like, people don't really know about it. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. Let's do that. And we started kind of figuring out what we were going to do creatively. And he was like, I just don't want to do like a boring medical documentary about this skin condition I have, which happens to be supposedly the third most painful condition you can have as a human being. So he was like, I want to make it entertaining. And I was like, love it. Let's do that. And so basically the documentary is kind of an intimate look about this skin condition that he suffers from, but we really get to kind of see how Crappie deals with it and it's through these very entertaining activities that he does. One of those being fishing, obviously. He's very into the outdoors. So there's these characters that are introduced. Afro-Vivalist is a Black survivalist woman who like has a bug out, van and her homestead in the side of a mountain. Crappie hangs out with Afro-Vivalist, outside. And then there's like, the cannabis side of Crappie. He uses cannabis as medicine, but it also at some point in this documentary sort of turns into a pot film because Slink Johnson, who is also Black Jesus on Adult Swim, hangs out with Crappie, and they consume a very large amount of cannabis. And well, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Black Jesus does make an appearance in the Crappie documentary. And so, it's all about being positive, having fun, but really it's about these things as therapy, for your mental state, for your physical state. And, Crappie learned, and this is the message that we're sharing, because I'm a firm believer in this as well, but comedy, having fun, things that are entertaining, using cannabis as medicine, these are all things that can really help people on many levels. And I think that's one of the messages that we're wanting to get out there, as well as, like I said earlier, raising awareness for HS and this skin condition.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, great. I mean, it really is just like such a you cast a wide net, as far as the sort of emotions and the themes. So I'm curious, how long was production on this film? Like shooting and post, and just curious.
I'd like to get you to guess before I answer.
My gosh.
How many days would you guess? It's a 40-minute documentary. How many days do you think we shot for that?
Oh, I'm going to embarrass myself. I want to say 7 days, solid week with Crappie.
Yeah, we did it in 2.5 days, and it's because like we wanted to do it kind of high-end production style. If you watch it, it's very cinematic in my opinion. The sound on it thumps. It sounds good. It's got some really good music on there. J-Zone for any hip hop heads, especially like old school, like J-Zone's on there. He put some beats on there. Mike Riley, who is also a producer, has some tracks on there. So the music's really good. But this is all to say we had to have a schedule. We knew what we wanted to shoot. We knew we had Uncle Elbow, Rippin' Lips, Afro-Vivalist, Black Jesus, as well as a few other things that we wanted to do. And so it was about like scheduling it out. So we were there. Some of the crews from Portland, some friends of mine, but then me and the DP was from New York, Matt Bockelman. And then Evan Smith, huge shout out to Evan Smith, because he was a camera operator and then he was the editor on the film, and definitely he carried some serious weight on this project. So big ups to him. But this is all to say 2.5 days was like all we could afford to do. Like we had a budget and we were like, we have to get this done and like get out of there in 3 days. And we weren't even planning on shooting when we got in, because we flew in, but then we just drove straight to this dispensary and shot some footage. So we weren't even planning on the half day, but 2.5 days is what we shot.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that just goes to show, for people watching, the amount of work that goes into all these films, it's really impressive. It just makes final product that much more resonant. So last thing, you have any upcoming projects you're working on that you want to give a shout right now? Works.
Sure. I'll shout out a couple. Crappie's always got something in the works. He's got some surprise celebrity guests that he's going to go fishing with and do a series, Adventures with Crappie Killa. And there's some great guests that he's going to be going fishing with. I've got kind of a stoner Christmas comedy script in the works, and I've got a few music documentaries. There's a lot of music documentaries that I work on, but there's a friend of mine, I mentioned him earlier, Mike Riley, is working with this blues musician in St. Louis named Marcel Strong, and they're releasing a 45 vinyl LP coming out, and we'll put out a short little documentary about this guy, Marcel Strong. He's super rad and a really great guy, and fabulous music.
Wow, yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm excited to see that. For people watching, you can see Crappie the Killa,
Crappie Killa the movie. Go see it.
Crappie Killa the movie.
It's in documentary. It's in Black Voices. It's in one other one. Oh, Portland. It's in the Portland section because Crappie's from Portland. So, and it's got a ton of great footage of Portland in there. Like, it's awesome. The Portland footage is amazing. Just for that, if you live in Portland, just watch Crappie Killa the movie to see this great footage of Portland. At least for that.
Well, there you go. If that didn't sell you, I don't know what will. You can check out Will's movie at pdxff.com, along with, of course, the rest of the films you talked about today. Thanks so much, Will, for chatting with me for a few minutes. Cool. So, Will was our final director guest on this little chat portion. So today, or right now, not today. Right now, we're going to show you some clips, and then we're going to come back for a panel. So check it out. We'll be here.
Hi, my name is Hunter Arthur. I'm the director of A, and I'd like to say thank you so much for watching my film. I'm located right now in Scottsdale, Arizona during this pandemic. It's where I'm from. I graduated from Arizona State University. And A is about a story about a kid who gets an eye disease and he's finding his little purpose in life. And that is what our short film is about. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Sara Alessandrini. I'm an Italian director based in Los Angeles. I'm the director of the music video Black Dust, screening here at Portland Film Festival. Black Dust is the music video I created for the artist Jameson Tabor, born and raised in Portland. When Jameson wrote this song, he was inspired by his personal experience witnessing the conflicts arising between his divorcing parents. When he shared his story with me, I couldn't avoid thinking that this lack of communication and anger that always emerge when people divorce is the same type that is diseasing our society. People fight against each other, don't listen, and don't respect each other's diversity. That's what we want to show with this music video. We want to show that when people pause and start listening to each other, they find out that they're more similar than they thought. Thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Christiana Wu, and I'm from Seattle, Washington. I'm the writer, director, and producer for the short film Alvin. Alvin is about a man who receives free healthcare at the expense of his freedom. The story stems from the significant life experiences I've had in the past. I wanted to convey internal struggles, external circumstances, and the downward spiral that manifests as a result. You can watch Alvin today in one of the sci-fi blocks. And of course, I'd love to hear from you. For more information, please check out alvinthemovie.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back. We're going to start our panel with all of our filmmakers in just a second here. Hey, how's it going, everybody? So just a quick second run around and reintroduce your films, please. Let's go Mackenzie on down.
Mr. Weekend. Wait, how are we doing it?
Let's go Mackenzie, Will, Ramon, Tracy. Jay is absent, so we'll go Ariella.
Step off.
All right, so am I starting over? Mr. Weekend, Mackenzie Woodward.
Will, Deloney, Crappie Killa, the movie.
Ramon Palmer, Saving District.
Tracy McGregor, The Forgotten Ones.
Ariella Tai, Safe House.
I want to first of all thank you all for joining us. It's pretty late for some of you, and you're taking the time to come out here and talk with us tonight, and I really appreciate that. Now, Black Voice is the first year we're doing a track for that, honestly. So thank you all for being a part of this trial run for us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, I asked somebody earlier about happy accidents. Does anyone go through and anything that made it into your film that wasn't intentional, but you saw it and it's, hey, why not?
I don't mind jumping in there. Crappie went fishing with Slink, and we were in this area that was federal Navy boats and docks, and we were tied up to a dock, and we had a friendly interaction with Homeland Security while Crappie and Slink had fun with the situation. I'll leave it as that. But having a interaction with Homeland Security wasn't something that we planned for, but it was very interesting to film.
Yeah. So, Will, I hate to single you out real fast, but as the only non-black face on the panel, how do you feel being a white man telling the story of black voices? How do you feel that? Go ahead.
I like to just kind of jump on for the ride. I don't really try to put any of my opinions or thoughts into something like Crappie Killa the movie. Like Crappie Killa the movie is him doing him. And so I'm basically there as a documentarian to kind of show what he wants to say. And, the color part of it is, for me, it's like, I'm going to use whoever can do the job. And so, I just happen to be a white dude that's friends with Crappie, and, we jumped on this crazy roller coaster and made a movie.
Oh, there you go. Leslie, pardon me. Do you have any questions you might want to ask?
Yeah, well, I'm curious. Just open question. What's if this is your first film festival, or if your guys' projects have been in other festivals? What's kind of the like with a you have this one project you've been working on, and then you go through the festival experience. What's it like from your end, either with the weirdness of this year or just in general? If anyone has anything to share.
I mean, I guess with everything being virtual and online, I guess this is sort of new for everybody. I mean, the moment I get selected into the film festival, everything is virtual. So I guess you could say it's a cool thing. I mean, in the back of my mind, there always was still like, what would that physical visual be like at a festival? I still was curious about that, and hopefully that can happen, at some period in my life. But I think, this is pretty cool and it's new. We all are dealing with COVID, so.
Yeah, virtual's weird for everyone, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my third festival with this film, and the first one that I've actually participated in. And I think for me, the most gratifying part of it is hearing from the other filmmakers. I think filmmaking for me anyway, and especially, you know, in document, it can be such a solitary experience, right? So it's really nice to hear, you know, other people's process, their journeys, and then to go back to, you know, the work, you know. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that idea of that festival to build a community or have the power to build a community. This is Tracy's third festival, the first one she's been able to take a part of. Has anybody, you know, networked at these kinds of things before, you know, we all had to stay in our own rooms and just talk in webcam?
This is a first for me, so no, I mean, I wouldn't really know where to start in, you know, this avenue. But I think this year is a lot of firsts for, you know, everybody in, you know, either the industry or just life. So, you know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, everybody here is, I think, working on something new. They said, how is everybody planning to produce during this epidemic or pandemic? Actually, they're planning on getting around this COVID issue.
I can jump in and talk a little bit about that just because I've been on some productions recently, and I think the protocols are getting better and better. I mean, so I recently did a production where I had to get COVID tested 24 hours before we shot. And it, you know, you have to get a rapid response test. And then there's the normal like protocols of wear a mask, social distance, and kind of there's a lot of hand sanitizer on all the equipment and everything. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I think the workflows are getting figured out, and post-production has been revolutionized by COVID-19. There's never a reason for a post-producer to sit in with an editor, you know, that like if an editor lives in LA and the producer's in Atlanta, that's a very easy workflow that's kind of been figured out and improved upon from these times. So yeah, a couple of quick tidbits.
Well, real quick, I want to go around. If you can share your favorite story from set, if you have one.
Jeez.
Your favorite lunch, then?
well, I will just say, okay, it got a little uncomfortable with me and Billy, right? Like I said, you know, I told you the circumstance of how I met him, and you know, he's significantly older than me. And at some point during shooting, you know, he lives in a building that you have to sign in, and I was going into the building with a camera, and it's like, because it's subsidized housing, you know, so I would make up, every time I went in, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to see my uncle, you know, kind of thing. And so as I'm walking out with Billy, I made reference to the fact that he was my uncle, and he shot me this look. And as we walked to the car, it's like he just went in on me about how, you know, how would I feel if, you know, somebody I liked told somebody that I was a relative, or basically he was interested in me. And I was like, Billy. that's not happening. Like, you know, it was very uncomfortable. I mean, and it has changed the nature of our relationship, right? It really has. I mean, anyway, it was funny, and then it just wasn't funny anymore, right? But anyway, I'm going down. Let's just move on to the next question. Yeah.
Well,
Sorry. And then it just wasn't funny. Yeah, it became uncomfortable. But
so, in one word, can you all tell me how people should walk away feeling about your film?
Informed.
Entertained.
Educated.
empathetic.
Oh, welcome back, Jay. I just noticed you there.
Happy to be back. Sorry guys, I have I'm a new dog dad, you know, and my dog is going through some stomach problems today. Of all days, started this morning. As soon as I sat down with my breakfast, he decided to have a problem, you know, nearby my plate. But you know, it's cool. I'm just dealing with sort of the residual effects of his stomach problems today. So that's why I'm disappearing. I'm bouncing in and out. But I'm here, guys. I'm here.
Well, I want to ask you all about flexibility and dealing with problems that just arise out of nowhere.
I'll go with I was gonna say enlightened is what you would walk away from Crappie Killa, the movie, with. You'd be feeling enlightened.
Awesome. All right, one more time, introduce your films. Tell us where we can see them.
Mr. Weekend. My name is Mackenzie Woodward, and you can see it in the Narratives or Black Voices.
Here we go, right here. Crappie Killa, the movie. It's in Black Voices, Portland, documentary. I believe that's all the categories. And I highly recommend it.
Saving District, and it is in the We Live Here block in Portland, Oregon. And I believe that's the only one it's in.
The Forgotten Ones, and it is in the Black Voices short films block.
Safe House, and it's in the Black Voices short films block.
I was just trying to figure out what block mine was in, but I believe it's in the same Black Voices film block. My film is Flawed, FLAWD, and my name is Jay Snow. You can find Flawed at the Portland Film Fest, yo.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Wesley for co-hosting with me. Yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Movies at pdxff.com.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody for coming.
Thank you, everybody.